Welcome to the Healthy Perspective Podcast with your host, chiropractor, entrepreneur, mentor, and author, Dr. Chris Boman. He'll break down and extract the secret sauce behind his own success and the success of some of the top leaders in every category and from around the world. Get ready for your weekly mental adjustment because shift is going to happen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Perspective Podcast. Today we have Natalie Forstbauer, who is a mom, a brain injury survivor, organic biodynamic gardener, and farmer. She's an author, she's a TEDx speaker and publisher. She's also the editor-in-chief of Heart and Soil magazine. She teaches individuals how to grow food in living soil so we can regenerate global health and create a vibrant, beautiful planet to live on for years to come. Now, I kind of virtually met Natalie. I think it was through an email. I think I signed up through her email list. And I loved, I wonder if it was Garden and Soil or a different publication that advertised you guys, but her story of gardening and biodynamic farming and doing it for the health reasons beyond just like eating a good carrot, but the emotional therapy and the physical therapy that comes along with this kind of homesteading lifestyle. It's like, man, I could have read that or wrote that myself. And so I felt an immediate kindred spirit. And I saw that she was having a gardening summit. So I reached out and just really trying to provide encouragement, because I know the road is long and hard when you're trying to start something up. And so our relationship built. I'm on her podcast. Hopefully we'll be doing an interview together in a couple of weeks for her summit. And so I'm super excited to have this conversation and let you guys just kind of be a fly on the wall and listen to a healing story and really learn more about biodynamic organic farming, because it is what's coming. If it's not here already, it is what's coming. So Natalie, thank you so much for joining me.
My honor, Chris. Thanks for the invitation.
Of course. So as we do with all of our interviewees, why don't you just kind of start out with your story? You mentioned, healing a cancer survivor and, all that stuff too. Why don't you just take us back a little bit? And what I'm trying to get to is that catalyst moment. What took you from being content with the type of lifestyle that you were living to lit a fire to constantly, making more, living a life of delivering more and more impact for people?
Thanks for that. That's a great question. So brain injury survivor, not cancer survivor.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's totally cool. So that's such a good question, Chris. And, I was really, really blessed in life. So even though there was a lot of kind of like hard things that happened, things came really easy and effortlessly to me. I definitely had to put in the work and do the things, but if I wanted something and I went after it, most likely I would achieve it. So I was really, really blessed. And then in 2003, I landed with a major brain injury. And when I came to, I was only knocked out for, maybe seconds. I really actually don't know. But when I came to, I didn't know my name. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know that I was on my way to my first book launch. I didn't know who the man was sitting next to me in the truck. It was shocking. So at the time, not remembering anything was like kind of like being lost. But then as I went through the journey of remembering who I was in a very short time. Okay, so my name's Natalie and I have brothers and sisters and a mom and dad and those kinds of things. Life became really freaking hard. So I went from being able to remember every person I met and almost every detail about that person that we would have. Like, so if I met you on the street and we talked about your friends and your family and your kids and the ages and where they went to school and what they were into and what you were into, all of that was like a Rolodex in my brain. So I'd be able to pull that up really easily. And then after the brain injury, this is even like a year or so, I remember being at an event with my partner at the time, and he and I was getting so frustrated with him because he wasn't introducing me to people. Like, I just was like, we're here again, and he's not introducing me. So I interrupt the conversation. I put my hand across to this couple, and I said, "Hi, I don't think we've met yet. I'm Natalie Forstbauer, Dave's girlfriend." And they're like, oh yeah, we've met a few times. And I looked at them and I was like, are you sure? And I'm thinking, okay, his last girlfriend had blonde hair. I have long brown hair and her hair is short. So they're not confusing me with his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Um, and they were, and I looked at Dave and he gave me this look like, yes, Natalie, you've met these people before. And not only had I met them before, Chris, I met them like, this was like on a Wednesday. I had met them like, at church on Sunday and at the school fair 3 days before that.
Wow.
So it was like, and it just made me pause. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what is going on? So, I don't know that there was a pivotal moment where I was like, how can I make my life better? Because I was always on this grind to heal the brain injury. But what happened was about 5 years post brain injury, I realized that I was doing all the right things, Chris. I was eating the right things, working at doing meditations and visualizations and be the change you want to see in the world and all the things that I knew to do, and nothing was really working. And then I realized that perhaps I just needed to meet myself where I was at. Like perhaps instead of trying to be how I thought I should be or how I thought I could be, what if I focused on what I could do in this moment?
That's good.
Right. So it was a powerful shift because it just opened up the doors for grace just to kind of flood in. And I think that's one of the things that as I've deepened more and swung back into gardening, because I was born and raised on an organic vegetable and blueberry farm. And I think having that connection to nature and connection to the earth really helped me deepen into being conscious of the presence of like how nature is all around us, right? Like it just
is.
And it just is. It knows the next step to take. It knows the next microbe to eat, the plants, and it receives the sunshine and it absorbs the rain. Like it just knows what to do. And
that's so good. And that's for me, that's for everybody, because me, as a young entrepreneur, I look at some of these people that seemingly are further in life, and I'm always anticipating like, oh, when I have this many followers, or when I have this much money, or when I have this going on, or that, or the other thing, it's like, then I will. And it's almost like, have you ever watched The Office, the TV show?
I haven't.
There's a quote at the end, like they're kind of like kicking you in all the fields because the show is ending and whatnot, and he's like, his name's Andy in the show. He said, I wish you could know that you're living in the good old times when you're in the good old times. But you know what I mean? He talks about like, all I wanted to do was do something else when I was in the office, but now that I'm here, all I want is to go back there. Like, you know what I mean? And like having 3 young kids, it's like, oh, I can't wait to go camping with you or do these things. And it's like, man, living in the here and now, like why sacrifice what we have now for something that might not even come in the future? Like, what does it say about in the Bible? Like, don't worry about tomorrow, for today has its own trouble. Like tomorrow might not even, it might be very different. Just like 2 days before the accident, you might have plans for this and that and the other thing, but that never, might not have come to pass or looked very different than it would have, in your mind. And so it's such a true thing. You don't have to go through something as life-changing that you went through to really come to that, catalytic moment in your life where it's like, I'm going to start living for now, for what is.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Chris, because I remember parts of me were so angry and pissed because I hear about, you hear about these stories. Oh, they were passed out and they saw God and they saw the angels and they knew exactly what they were going to do for the rest of their life. Right. And that did not happen for me. I was like, I felt like I was on track. I was at the highest, most pivotal, most aligned place in my life. And I was literally driven off the side of the mountain. So there was this like piece of anger because I felt so in service at the
Yeah.
time of the accident, and so aligned, like deeply aligned. And so it was shocking to me that this would happen. And so, like, that pivotal time in my life where I was like, oh, that come to, well, you can call it come to Jesus moment, or that coming to the cross moment, or the coming to the um to the um to the chrysalis, is like,
Yeah.
what what is important right now? What can I focus on that I can do really well today?
Mm.
And what can I let go of that no longer serves me in this moment?
Yeah.
Because that is, when we do that, it's freeing, right? Like,
Mm.
it's when we, and I'll relate it back to gardening, because one of the things I really learned is that the healing journey is like a gardening journey. So being really conscious of the seeds that we plant, being
Yeah.
conscious of what we nourish. And so I was nourishing, even though I was doing all the right things, eating the
Yeah.
right foods, doing the right exercises, and not having this traction that I wanted, I was nourishing where I wanted to be, which is different than intention,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so when I was able to deepen into that, it was really powerful. So I just wanted to amplify it. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at.
I
Life can be
love
really
that point.
good.
I love that point that you just said. It's you were eating and doing all the right things for who you wanted to be, which is different than intention. Because I was just about to mention something with intention, where like as a holistic healer and a hands-on like body worker, intention is huge. It's everything for me. BJ Palmer, like the developer of chiropractic, said chiropractic is the adjustment plus the extra something. It's not really describable, but it's palpable. And like I've had people, and it's vice versa, but I've had people see chiropractors for years, 20, 30, 40 years, come see me, and after 2 adjustments get very different results than what they've got in any of the other chiropractors. And I'm a young kid, 8 years in the game. Like, my adjustment, there's no way it's better than someone that's been doing it for 30 or 40 or 50 years. But the mindset and the intention that I have when I heal somebody is, this is what you're going to be, but this is what you need now. Like, this is
Mhm.
what your body's going to do with this energy now, for the purpose
Mhm.
of becoming who you're going to be. Not, I'm doing this for you now so you can. It's not a hollow intention. You know what I mean? Like, I'm eating this omega-3 oil so that way my brain can heal, so that way I can be somebody different. You know what I mean? Instead of, I'm having this omega-3 oil because this is what my brain needs to heal now, so I can be now. Maybe that's going to be someone different, and hopefully there's going to be a not an evolution per se, but a continual growth from where I'm at now. But it's not that where I'm at now is less than, or
That's right.
worthless, or
Yeah.
incapable, or whatever it is. Because we are all here for a purpose. Each moment is a different opportunity to manifest that purpose, in a different way. And like you said, like, we don't need that coming to Jesus, traumatic life moment. That helps. That definitely take you to 0 to 500 much quicker than it might take to go from office job to farmer, or whatever. But that's huge. The power of intention, and kind of, what you said with nourishing. For some reason, this moment flashed into my head. So we pay attention and nourish our garden, probably very similarly to someone that loves gardening for the sake of gardening. Like, we're
Mhm.
sad if we don't get a tomato, but we're happy when we see the green leaves. Like, we see the plant thriving, and we dig our hands in the soil and we see worms, and that makes us happy, not just staring at the plant like, where's my produce? Like we love the
Right.
process about it. Um, but our best harvest came from when my 2-year-old daughter, she was maybe 1.5 or something like that at the time. My wife was planting some other things around, and Jess was like, okay, like, plant whatever you want here. And so she grabbed some seeds, lettuce seeds, and it was just like scattered, just having the time of her life, sticking her hand in the dirt, like, not measuring like specific depth or watering it, like nothing really
Yeah.
that's best practices. That was the best patch of our garden of anything. Everything got the same amount of water, the same fertilizer, but it was just this joy and love that went into those seeds that we think made the difference. And now, since she wasn't like super precise where she was putting them, there's that stuff is still coming up. We just went over there I don't know, maybe like 6 weeks ago or something like that. And there's a lettuce head popping up that didn't come up last year that we didn't plant there, that my daughter had broadcasted. Like, and
Yeah.
the cilantro popping up everywhere because the same thing happened. Like, you know what I mean? So there's that gardening with that extra something. You can give it all the nutrients and biodynamics you want, but without that extra something, the intention, that love, and I feel like that's all the people that are super successful in gardening. Successful meaning they have bountiful harvest, and they're the pictures with the big old, cabbages, or whatever. It wasn't what they put on there. It was what they put in there that went on there.
That's
Uh,
right.
one of my Sorry, I'm talking a lot. One of my mentors, like a super, I don't know, it's an inspiring subject. One of my mentors, Justin Ohm, he took the reins for the ICPA, International Pediatric Chiropractic Association, and he said, referencing Jesus's miracle healing the blind man with the mud, he's like, it's not the mud like that healed the man. Like, you know what I mean? It was the intention behind the mud. It was obviously the power behind the mud. And he always references that, and I love that. Like, it's not just the mud, it's not just the spit.
Yeah. And I just want to bring presence to one of the other pieces that I really learned in the healing journey of the brain injury. So I'm 20 years to almost, I'll be 20 years post brain injury in November 2023. And I knew this cognitively before having the brain injury, because I had a practice as a polarity therapist, which I don't know if you're familiar with polarity therapy, but it's based in ancient Ayurvedic medicine, and the founder was a chiropractor, naturopathic doctor. He
You
studied
said polarity?
polarity therapy. Yeah, it's a
Biomagnetic and
fabulous,
whatnot.
yeah, it's a fabulous practice. Anyways, where was I going with this? Oh, so I understood the power of intention and stuff like that. But what the brain injury really, really taught me, Chris, was that true healing is really about embracing who we are, where we are in this very moment. And that is what freedom is. That's what true, like, peace and divinity is. It's not about getting rid of the disease or the broken bone or the healing, and that can be part of the journey and part of the process. And I just heard you mention that in the way you work with your is it patients? You call them patients, right? The way you work with your patients is just actually being intentional about where they are now and what they need right now. And that is, oh man, it's powerful. Because, and then the way your daughter planted the lettuce seeds, and I've seen that in my own garden, and in the way I've planted flowers in the past, and seeing some just, suffer and others just flourish. And then seeing what happens when I put the same love into them halfway through the growing season, how they actually can catch up to the other plants. So it's very, very powerful.
I love it. Well, we would be remiss if we didn't not transform, but kind of like meander into from mindset into the biodynamic organic gardening and that sort of thing. How did that play a part? You said that was kind of your history, your background. That's what you knew growing up. Is that something you stepped away from and then got back into, or?
Well, the short and long story is, when I was 18 years old, my parents had moved from an organic farm that we'd been farming for about 16 years to a farm that had been heavily farmed with industrial chemicals. And I remember picking up handfuls of that earth and wondering what the heck my dad was thinking, because it was like picking up, I imagined it would be like what the surface of the moon might be like, because it was lifeless. And there was like, I was the oldest of 12 kids, and we had a stream by our old farm. And so the first thing we wanted to do was find worms to go fishing in this little stream along the side of the property. And we could not find one worm on 110 acres. I'm not kidding you. We dug along the barns. We turned over every piece of wood. We looked along the house. There was no worm to be found on the entire property. And I remember being shocked by that. The cool part, though, the magic, was when I saw that earth come back to life. Like, that was life-changing for me. And I'll remember that for the rest of my life. Like, actually seeing desiccated, lifeless, dry, like crumbly soil come back to this living, what we're learning now is this living microorganism, right? It breathes and it has a life of its own. It's not just dirt. So that was really cool. So then when I studied polarity therapy, my dad said to me when I was on my, like, just as I was writing my book, Health in a Hurry, he said, Natalie, if you really wanted to teach people about health, you teach them about soil, because that's where health starts. And I was like, yeah, Dad, but people won't get that. And so this is like back in like 2001.
Okay.
So
That was like the beginning
forward,
of like the non-GMO movement, right?
right.
Like
It
moms
was,
across
yeah.
America and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I got in that major car accident and got the brain injury in 2003. And then 17 years later, I was ready to start going back into the healing path and sharing people about how they could heal, and just about brain health. So I thought I'd do, that's what I thought I was building my business around, is like everything brain health, from what you eat to what you think to neurofeedback and chiropractics and all the really powerful things a person can do for cognitive and healthy brain. And then I had this vision, Chris, of this new earth that was completely healed. Like everything was working in reciprocity. There was it was almost literally like heaven on earth. So we built our buildings differently and we ate differently and the colors were more vibrant, and the messaging was so clear that if we don't have an earth to live on, we'll have no place to really talk about the brain. And that was actually the most important work that I could do personally at that time, because my whole life had prepared me for it. And so that's how I came to sharing about biodynamics and organics. And here's the thing. And we were talking about this before the interview about organics being taken over by the government and stuff like that. One thing I know for sure is organics, biodynamics, Korean natural farming, permaculture, this escaped me, energy farming. They all have, electrical farming. They all have beautiful offerings. And what if we amplified and learned from each other instead of throwing each other under the bus? And that's really what Heart and Soil is about. And that is really what about, that's why we did the Soil Summit on biodynamics and Korean natural farming, to not just say one is better than the other, because really they both offer great, amazing, powerful practices.
Yeah, I love it. What for those that are kind of like new, like I want to get chickens so I can have my own eggs, like type of like, maybe I might have a place in homesteading. Never did I think that I would, enter into that world. What is this world of, biodynamic farming? What maybe the principle behind how you would see someone getting, raising chickens or having a small garden, or does that make sense? Not necessarily.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. So biodynamic, if I was to summarize, you want me to summarize biodynamic farming? Okay. So if I was to summarize it, it's really seeing your whole farm or whole garden, like not just your garden, but if you have a yard, like maybe some people only have a quarter of an acre, right? Or even less. It's seeing that whole area as an ecosystem. And it's looking to see how you can support it and be the conductor. It's like being a conductor of an orchestra. You are, as a farmer or the gardener, you're the conductor of that farm. You're the conductor of that garden. And so how can you, like you're talking about, showing up with love and attention, and that's really the foundation of biodynamics, is showing up with love and intention and working with the energy and working with nature and listening and observing to what's happening, not just in the plants that are growing above the soil, but what's happening below the soil. Like if you could imagine that and feel what that might feel like in the soil, what is that like? And then noticing what, like how you can steward that. So biodynamics is also always about bringing the best out in what you're stewarding. So creating the best environment for your plants, for your animals, for the soil, for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for the food that you eat. It's really about beauty. It's really, really powerful. And the other part is that's often incorporated in biodynamics is having animals in the system so that it's very holistic, and biodynamics sees animals serving as like a source of nutrition and nutrients for the land. So from their poo and their pee, and biodynamics uses a lot of composting. They also use crop rotations and stuff like that with their animals. So like as a backyard or a homesteader, you might want to, like, chickens is a great place to start, right? Because you can do a deep bed for your chickens and compost that leftover stuff from them, and then you can make compost teas or with it, or sprinkle it around your farm, your garden. So yeah, that's biodynamics.
I love it. That's an amazing explanation. And I think speaking of like a principle, looking at this as a living, breathing, ecosystem and whatnot that you are inserting yourself into. I think a lot of people, when they think of gardening or having chickens, the mindset is, what can I get from you? And I love the biodynamic is almost reversed, is what can I do for you to help you thrive? And in me helping you thrive, you're going to help me thrive. It's more of a symbiotic, like you said, stewardship and relationship, rather than kind of an authoritarian, type of role with nature, even if it's just a galvanized trough tomato garden. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you just say, give me tomatoes, I'm going to put this on you and this on you, and you do what I say, like, rather than, okay, understand. And it takes some effort. What does a tomato need to grow? If you have it in the shade all the time, you can put everything you want on it. It's not going to give you great food. Or you can force it to give you tomatoes with, NPK and like all of those sort of things. But is that really going to be beneficial for you? Is that going to be help? Like, you're just going to get a hollow, a facade of what you're actually wanting. And I love having animals or biodynamic farming in general, because humans, especially in America, are very, we've designed our lives in suburban America to be very comfortable and be very linear in a sense. Like, I want my temperature, whether it's 100 degrees outside or 0 degrees outside, to be around 70. Like, I don't want it up or down via that. I need my sleep to be in the same spot. I need my sleep patterns to be the same. I need this and this. I need repetition, and I need what's the word that I'm looking for? Predictability. That's the thing. And I love when you have a farm or when you have animals, they insert themselves into your life and produce variability and unpredictability, which I think is one of the most powerful things for us, because then we start to understand, the nature of this animal. Why is this chicken constantly flying over? Or why is this goat constantly trying to leave? Or why is this pig constantly destroying? Instead of us inserting our agenda on them, it's like they're looking for something. They could be just naughty, sure, but like there's something that they're not getting, or something that they're missing that they're looking for elsewhere. Like, what can we do to supply that? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I've loved about farming is the introduction to variability, because we can so quickly accumulate comfort, and convenience, that we lose that presence. And that's what I think variability does for me. It's like I could be in the middle of this podcast and look out my window and see a cow running around, and we'd have to cut it short. You know what I mean? I got to go catch my cow, or whatever it is. And I love what that does. I'm kind of speaking to what what we'll be getting into on our summit. Well, I love what that does is it causes us to like I said, learn the nature of animals, but then be fully invested in the process of homesteading, where it's like, we are who we are. This is who it is, and let's steward it well and be a part of the process, instead of just being authoritarian and demanding, this is what my land is going to give me.
Yeah, so powerful. Yeah, so powerful. And that's one of the reasons we paired biodynamics and Korean natural farming in the soil summit, is because they both really amplify a foundation of love and a foundation of observation, and working with nature, and really, really honoring nature in everything that we can learn from it.
And what I love about Korean natural farming, or natural farming, when I first heard about it, I'm like, you're using like moldy stuff, like green, like all the stuff that we kind of have this I don't know, concept of like this is bad for you, but then it's gonna we're gonna turn it into something that's actually good, for the
Yeah.
environment. It's even mushrooms or like the spores and like those sort of things. Like it just flips it on its head. Where we've learned to just bleach and sanitize and live once again this comfortable world. But there's this really biodynamic thing going on around us that we can steward so everybody wins instead of something dies and something lives, type of thing. Why don't you
Yeah.
speak a little bit more in just a couple minutes we have left about the summit? What have you done in the past? What are you doing this year? And then where can people find out more and register and whatnot?
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, first of all, we are super excited to have you as one of our live sessions at the Gardening Summit, Chris. I'm really excited to share your story and your experience and what you're learning as a new and seasoned
Hmm.
homesteader and gardener. Um, the so my In 2021, we launched Heart and Soul magazine, which amplifies regenerative farming, gardening, and living. And one of the things that is really important to the Heart and Soul mission and vision is to bring communities together and to amplify all the cool things that are happening in the regenerative farming and gardening space. And when I say regenerative, I'm talking about really intentionally and consciously using no chemicals. And I lean hard into biodynamics and Korean and natural farming and organic farming.
Hmm.
Um, because there is verification and with regenerative farming, I think it's important to ask questions
Yep.
about what the regenerative practices are, because they can just be no-till and they're still using all the chemicals. So bringing awareness and consciousness to that is really important to me, and giving people tools and connecting them to the power of growing their own food, whether it be in a farming setting or in a gardening setting. And the soil summit was about amplifying Korean natural farming and biodynamics to put more tools in organic farmers and in homesteaders tool belts so they could expand into their practices. And the gardening summit is really about connecting people to the healing power of growing their own food. So
Mm.
really, it's about learning gardening practices that we can use practically to grow healthy, delicious, nutrient dense food, and to control the pests and the disease and all the things that we don't necessarily want as gardeners. And it's also about connecting people deeply to the healing power of gardening. So not just planting the seeds in the garden that are going to grow into delicious food for us to eat, but how does that translate to our life and planting the seeds in our relationships and in our health and in our lives professionally, and then looking at how we can nourish those seeds, nourish where the growth is, and connecting people to the journey of gardening as well as the actual practical part of gardening.
I love it. I can't wait. I think it's gonna be super exciting. What are the dates and where do people go to register?
May 3rd to May 6th
Okay.
is when the gardening summit is live. And during that time, there's pre-recorded sessions that people can listen and tune into anytime. And then there are 2 live sessions a day, you being one of them, Chris. And you can go to thegardeningsummit.com to get your free tickets, and
That's
it's
what I
free
was
to
gonna
watch.
say. How much is it?
Yeah, it's free to watch. And
I love
we
it.
wanted to make it, we want to make it low barrier, free to watch. And then if people want to upgrade and keep the recordings, they get a workbook, a gardening journal, a whole bunch of cool bonuses. And that's $47. So it's
I love
also
it.
pretty affordable.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Natalie, thank you so much for
Well,
joining me. Okay.
yeah, Chris, I think you have a coupon, right?
Yeah, I'm giving away 2 free chapters of my book, and then a free either a homestead or a small business growth strategy session.
At the summit.
Hmm.
That is exciting. And also you have a coupon, like
Oh,
people can save
that.
10%, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
When they use your coupon. And do you have that handy? Because I'm going to look it up right now.
I don't have it handy.
Okay, well, I do. I'm just going to bring it up.
Okay.
I'm just looking at it right now for you, Chris. So it is Chris. If you use the coupon Chris 4650, that's Chris CHRIS 4650, you get 10% off of the upgrade, and then and And then you're supporting Chris as well in his homesteading journey.
Sweet. I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait. This is only the beginning. I'm excited for people to listen and for people to attend the summit. I'm excited to do our talk together. We're doing our part, changing the world. I love partnering with people like you. So thank you for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for being the leader in health and environmental and regenerative gardening that you are, Chris. We deeply appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes it's easy to think like, is anybody listening? Is anybody, you know what I mean? So it's good to be reaffirmed. So thank you.
Yes, amen to that.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Perspective Podcast. To connect with Dr. Boman, follow him on Instagram at Dr. Chris Boman. Until next time, make shift happen.